I thought the position on the conservative right, which is mainly supportive of the NRA, for example, is that actually the answer, say, to school shootings is that everyone should have guns at schools, right, to stop this happening. That would stop it happening. If you take that logic, then after 2 shootings, 2 people being shot dead by ICE agents, wouldn't the logical thing be to do to take a gun, if you're legally allowed to have one, to protect yourself against the same thing happening to you?
Alright guys, welcome back. This is Piers Morgan versus Clay Travis. And in this clip, Clay Travis accidentally destroys his own argument, and Piers Morgan spots it immediately. Clay Travis says something very specific. He argues that even if someone is legally allowed to carry a gun, they shouldn't bring it to a protest because it creates panic and because it's not smart. Sounds reasonable until you think about it for more than 10 seconds. Watch this.
The more angles you look at this, the more unequivocal it becomes. No one is honestly now suggesting this guy was brandishing a weapon, trying to attack or assault. There were 8 guys all over him. And then you see one of them reach down, take his legally owned firearm from his side, from his waist, take it away, and it's a second later that they kill him. I mean, that cannot be right.
Look, I think we're going to figure out more details on this. It looks to me like maybe his weapon discharged, that is the weapon that they took from him, discharged. And then there was a panic and a thought that a gunshot had been fired and the reaction occurred. That's my analysis of it right now. I think there should be an investigation. If it's determined that he behaved in a way that was outside the law, then this individual should be charged. And again, I think the real issue here, big picture, again, is how do you get the 10 million that Biden let out? But also, these individuals are going and intentionally obstructing these ICE agents from being able to do their jobs. And this, I believe, is the intent. They want a violent act, whether it's Renee Good, whether it's this individual. There is a desire.
They don't want to get shot, though, do they? They don't want to get shot. Yeah, but Clay, they don't want to get shot.
If you go back and remember, Pierce, the Axios story that came out, I believe it was in July, said that Democrats were instructing people that they did need to have a shooting because politically they saw it as beneficial. In other words, a consequence of trying to get in front of this. And I will just say, look, I am a First and a Second Amendment guy. If the guy, there's a difference between what you can legally do and what you should intelligently do. If I were giving advice to anybody who is going out to protest ICE right now, I would say don't go armed. I think if this guy had not had the weapon that he did, he would have been arrested. He would still be alive. I think there was a panic brought on by the gun being there. And so I think you have to analyze this situation in general. If my own kids were going to protest, Pierce, I would say, okay, do not take any weapons at all. You might legally have the right to do it, but I would tell them that is not a smart thing to do.
This is important. Clay Travis is making a common sense argument. Just because you can carry a gun doesn't mean you should. He even says if it were his own kids, he'd tell them to go unarmed. Okay, but now comes the problem. Because this is where Piers Morgan steps in.
And certainly,
yeah, but you know what? Again,
in the arrest.
Okay, but Clay, before I move to the other 2 panelists, again, I am struck by an irony here because Renee Good wasn't armed, and it didn't save her, right? And the bottom line is, I thought the position on the conservative right, which is mainly supportive of the NRA, for example, is that actually the answer, say, to school shootings is that everyone should have guns.
This is the moment it collapses. Piers Morgan points out the contradiction. For years, the argument from the pro-gun right has been simple. More guns equals more safety. Guns stop shootings. Guns protect people. Guns are the answer. But now, suddenly, when protesters are being shot, the advice changes. Now it's, don't bring a gun. And Piers Morgan asks the obvious question. If guns are meant to protect you, why wouldn't you bring one when people are being shot?
Schools, right, to stop this happening. That would stop it happening. If you take that logic, then after 2 shootings, 2 people being shot dead by ICE agents, wouldn't the logical thing be to do to take a gun, if you're legally allowed to have one, to protect yourself against the same thing happening to you? In other words, is the argument not being put forward here by people on the right who love guns? I'm not going to get into that debate again. Litigated that years ago. We've moved on. It's your country, your debate, your guns. However, Again, it does seem hypocritical to me. It's like this is the completely opposite advice that you would normally give to a situation which keeps recurring where people are being shot. The normal advice is you should, if you're allowed to carry a gun, take it to defend yourself.
That's the destruction. Clay Travis can't reconcile the two positions. Either guns make you safer or they escalate situations. You can't argue both depending on who's holding the gun. And Piers Morgan doesn't shout. He doesn't insult him. He just applies Clay Travis's logic to a different situation. And it collapses. Alright, I'll leave it there. Do you think Piers Morgan exposed real hypocrisy here? Or do you think Clay Travis still had a valid point? Pick a side in the comments. See you in the next one.